This video is for you. This is a feeling that I have from a prayer that I received, and now I'm praying about it and I'm visualizing about this. So I'm coming to you about subconscious impressions and about things you may be going through in your life. And I'm going to explain all of that in this video. Objective states bear witness to subconscious impressions. So in other words, when you make an impression, you change your state of consciousness. Your conscious state has to change with the person that you fell asleep with being. So when you prepare for sleep at night, or you're doing your visualizations, before you go to sleep at night, and you're creating this event that hasn't taken place yet, but you're feeling as though it already has, and you become that version of you that has already done this, the subconscious mind creates and dictates your new conscious state that you are becoming. And as you do this, you develop this habit of doing it. And then you have a new set of habits in the three-dimensional world that will carry you through the bridge of incidents to your goal or your subconscious impression that you've made to your wish fulfilled. So that's how it works. Objective states bear witness to subconscious impressions. And what I've found about this through experience is when I create a visual scene as I'm going to sleep at night, as if I already have something or I'm becoming that person, everything's worked out perfectly for me already. It's already worked out perfectly. And then I get into this feeling, and then I go into the drift, then I fall asleep. What will happen is I'll wake up the next day, and sometimes I'll carry out, and I won't feel much different. But what I'll notice is I won't be content in my current state that I'm living, or my certain conditions and experiences, the things that I would have experienced the day before and been okay with. Now I'm not okay with those things. And I just have this need to want to grow, and I'm not content staying where I am. I have this overwhelming feeling of growth, and I get new ideas from this state. And different doors start to open in this state, and I'll start growing, start creating more things that are leading me to that new version of myself that I've fallen asleep with being. And like we've gone over before, when you make the impression, when you fall asleep with that new version of yourself, sometimes other things can happen in your world that'll seem like they are negative, or they're throwing you off your path, like they're contradicting your manifestation. These things are happening because of the impression that you made, because conscious states bear witness to subconscious impressions. So what that means is these negative things that seem to be happening to you are raising your conscious state because of the impression that you made. The subconscious mind now has created or shifted your world to where it's collided with another world, where it knows what you have to go through in order to become that version of you that can sustain this wish fulfilled, being this person that it felt you being when you went to sleep at night. And because a lot of times when people visualize or they feel themselves to be a certain person where everything's working out perfectly for them, sometimes that creates things to happen into your world where you have to acquire more discipline, more consistency, and develop yourself to certain degrees. And that's why these other things are happening to you, to get you to that your wish fulfilled. A lot of times it's not going to be an easy road, but sometimes it can be an easy road. And there are magical ways to manifest things by feeling that you already have them. You can make magical things happen in the process, especially if you're trying to change certain things that seem unchangeable. Like Neville Goddard went over this. I've created so many different testimonials and different experiences about these types of manifestations. But what I'm talking about is if you're leading towards your success, you're changing your concept of yourself, getting you to the next level where you're providing service and value, creating businesses, you're doing all these different things, or you're seeing yourself in a mansion or something, to where you're running successful businesses within this mansion. You have, good relationships, and all these things are happening. Those types of things you're going to need more discipline potentially for, and more consistency. So then the subconscious mind then dictates your reality, starts changing certain things, brings things to you that may seem negative or they're contradicting your manifestation, but those things are there to get you to that level. They're taking you to that new level. So look at them in that degree, that they're not actually negative, that they're actually getting you to your wish fulfilled. These are leading you towards that. These are things that, and you'll experience this too. When you do have negative things, and if you're very observant and aware of these things that have happened to you in the past that are similar to this, you'll realize after you have accomplished them and you've gotten to that next level because of them, you will be very grateful for them. Like, you're a better person now, a stronger person, a more resilient person, more disciplined person, you become a better version of you after you have completed or after you've overcome these obstacles. And you look back and you're very grateful because the person that you were and the person that you are now, you're such, you're a better person now all the way around. So you have to have gratitude for those things too. And you start experiencing that to happen. And when they start happening again, you realize that, okay, so this is getting me to a wish field. That means that I have impressed the subconscious mind. Usually that's what happens, because when you make a solid impression, sometimes you can verify the validity of your impression by new things and weird things starting to happen in your world that are kind of throwing you off. It depends, and there's a lot of variables with that, but usually that's a good sign that's showing you there's things coming to you that you have to maneuver around and learn how to overcome these types of obstacles in order to get to that higher level, the higher level that you felt yourself being. Because it's not your job to figure these things out. The subconscious mind, you make the impression with the subconscious mind, and then the subconscious mind dictates the events that need to happen in order for you to get there. But it's up to you to follow those. What are you going to do? How are you going to react to those things? Are you going to shut down when they happen? Or are you going to overcome them, become stronger, become more disciplined, become a better person in the process of overcoming these obstacles? And this, when you make a big impression, these are the things that typically happen. They're things that have to raise you up. Like, for example, when I was counting, like one of the first things that I did with manifestation and visualization is counting $100 bills as I'm going to sleep at night. And as I'm counting the bills, creating this, I had some issues with it, but I kept doing it. Then I finally fell asleep with it while I was counting it, but I didn't have the ownership of it. And then the money was someone else's money that I had to count. But then I went back again and started counting it again in my own residence, and I felt the ownership of it. And then I was already running a business at that time, but then I had a job that came to me through my business that I was already able to receive that. So the person that I was already was acceptable to receive that $10,000. But at that time, if I were to create a scene where I'm worth $300 million, my current concept of self, when I was creating that, the business that I had wouldn't be able to receive that amount of money. So it wouldn't be able to come to me in any way through a business or me providing value or service to anyone. So what would have to happen is a lot of new weird things would have to come into my world to make me grow, to find new businesses, to grow my businesses and expand the business or find a new business or create something new. And I would get all kinds of ideas for this and even be attracting it the entire time because my frequency that I would be on. Because I would be accepting all of these things as they're happening, staying in this high frequency, knowing that it's getting me there. Okay, so that's the difference. Like if you're creating something, visualizing something, falling asleep, and it's already within, this sphere of your current concept of self, then there's not going to be a lot of things that are going to come that are going to try to throw you off your path and create more discipline, all these different things. It's going to come through an avenue of a business or whatever you're doing currently as a career. It's probably just going to come to you, or it's something you've been trying to sell for a long time, and all of a sudden the money will come to you through that. Different things will happen like that, unless you go to this super high level and your current concept of self just can't sustain that type of wealth or, abundance that you're trying to create. So then these other things happen. Like the subconscious mind then puts these things in front of you that you have to overcome and grow, but it gives you ideas from that. And it increases your level of consciousness. It wakes you up within the simulation to where it levels you up. Like if it was a video game, you're leveling up in the video game to where you can increase and get better armor and do all these different things within the video game. Okay. Within the simulation. Now you're a higher level character to where you can create more, do more, and just have a better mind to manifest things in your world. And even my grandfather's testimonial is all based on this. And he studied with Neville Goddard, like in person. He was actually a student of Neville Goddard. And Neville Goddard was also a member at one of my grandfather's clubs in Los Angeles. So my grandfather's testimony was growing the Reno studio, the Arthur Murray Dance Studio, which was at the very bottom of the list, the lowest revenue, all the way to the top. And there was like 300 Arthur Murray Dance Studios. So he wants to get to the top. And how does he do that? He visualizes the end, that he's in Vegas, Las Vegas, in front of a huge audience, and they're all applauding him. And then he looks to his right in his visual scene, in his imagination before he's going to sleep at night, that Arthur Murray himself is walking up to the stage with him and sits right next to him. And there's two mics, one for him and one for Arthur Murray. And he visualizes this thing and he hears the applaud of the audience. And then he falls asleep in this feeling state. And then he does it. He actually creates this. He gets to the top of the list. He is the talk of the convention. He does this. This is a testimonial in Neville Goddard's book, The Law and the Promise. He actually did this, and he created this to happen, and then he wanted to get the biggest Arthur Murray dance studio in the world, and he ended up getting that. It was in Montreal, Canada. He ended up doing what he said at the end of the testimonial, what he was going to go after next. He actually got that. He achieved that as well. But if you've noticed during his testimonial when he's talking about it and when he actually did it, was that he was working night and day. He was up, he was campaigning, he was doing this, he was doing that, and everybody was asking him, what the hell are you doing? This is crazy that you're actually doing this. What are you doing? And he says, I'm just doing the best that I can. And he told me that it was a lot of hard work that he had to do. He was getting all these new ideas, doing these different things, networking, communicating with different people, growing that business to the top, to the highest level. But he was locked in doing it. And he understood that everything that was happening for his benefit, to get him to that convention, to get him that #1 spot. And you notice that when he says, I'm just doing the best that I can, when people asked him, what the heck are you doing? How are you doing this? I'm just doing the best that I can, because that's the concept of self that he is. He became that version of himself through the impressions that were made from the subconscious. Now his conscious state was dictated by that. So now he's way up here. His frequency's way up here to where he can actually accomplish that. And that's the secret to manifestation that Neville Goddard taught. But a lot of people kind of misunderstand how that works. It's not saying that it can't be magical, which it absolutely can. But it means that sometimes your concept of self must change in order to get you to that next level. And you may have difficult things, because if you ask him, he's going to tell you there were difficult things that happened. A lot of different difficult things. But those things were creating the version of him that he was at the very end. That version that he became was due to that success, that growth, those difficulties, all those obstacles that he encountered. But he was just doing the best that he could. So just know, if you make a proper impression and these things start happening, it just means that you have impressed the subconscious mind, and you are getting to that level where you need to maybe work on your discipline level, learn to overcome these obstacles, because those obstacles are getting you to the top. And I'm going to put a card on the screen to my grandfather's testimonial, the interview that I had with him when he actually talked about this actual testimonial of creating the Reno studio to be the top of the list. I love you all, and I'll see you in the next video.